Not in the middle?
Good evening. Live from Rome, Robert Moynihan and
Deborah Tomlinson.
Tomorrow begins the Conclave. Night is descending over Rome a little after 8 o'clock in the evening. There are seagulls and pigeons coasting on the air which descends over St. Peter's Square at this hour. The sun has just set. We are at the hinge of history. A successor for Pope Francis will be chosen, and we'll be here watching. In the background is the dome of St. Peter's Basilica, and next to the dome is the ceiling of the roof of the Sistine Chapel. And from that chapel, from a pipe on the chapel ceiling, will come the white smoke or the dark smoke as the cardinals vote for the first time tomorrow.
So, Bob, when do we think we're going to see the first smoke?
I would think about 6 or 6:30 tomorrow evening.
Some were saying that we may not see smoke tomorrow.
Well, they have a mass in the morning for the intention of the conclave. Then they end the mass, and I think they have lunch after mass. Then they come in and they take a solemn oath to choose the best man for the church and to keep a secret. And there's 133 cardinals, so that will take at least an hour and a half or 2 hours. Then they may say, we'll vote, and that's expected. But it's conceivable that those other events take longer, and they might even say, we can't yet vote today, and the first vote might be on Thursday. But most likely, about 6 o'clock or 6:30, the first smoke tomorrow evening will come from the top of the Sistine Chapel.
So about an hour earlier, we were over in the Borgo Pio area. For those who know Rome, it's on the other side of St. Peter's Basilica from where we're standing. It's an area where it's filled with restaurants, and it's typically where we eat. When we're here in Rome, we'll meet with different people over on the Borgo, as we say, and we bumped into 2 American cardinals.
Yeah, and I said, we don't want to have you break your oath of secrecy, but how are things going? And they said, each one of us, when we became a priest, when we entered seminary and took priestly vows, wished to be of service to the church and to help to preach the gospel of Christ. Even after all these years, that still stirs us. And I said, how about what you're going through now in the conclave? And one of the cardinals said, it's not a burden, it's a grace.
He did. He said he felt the burden a few days ago, but as the days have gone on, they feel like it's less of a burden. And he says it's a grace that's kind of coming upon us.
So that's actually hopeful. A lot of the chatter here is that originally there was a consensus that within 1 or 2 votes, they would have a candidate, and very quickly they would elect the next pope. But that feeling has declined a bit. It still could happen, but there's a sense now that there's 8 or 10 or 12 different people, different men who might receive 10 or 15 votes, and it might take several votes for that to coalesce with a 2/3 majority of 89 votes out of 133. 2/3 are needed to elect the Pope. But that also means that 44 votes, or 45, would be sufficient to block the election of any candidate. Therefore, if there's a group that's conservative that feels there's too much danger of a candidate who's too progressive, they could block that candidate if there's 45 of them. Vice versa, the 45 progressive candidates, cardinals, might block the election of a more conservative pope if they felt that that was the consideration they needed to keep in mind. So here we are. It's evening over Rome. It's just 12 hours from now, 8 tomorrow morning. The sun will come up and light the facade of St. Peter's on May 7th, 2025, and begin the official conclave process. All day, the cardinals were going into Vatican City with their suitcases. It was almost like a college move-in weekend.
It was. It was fun to see. Bob, we have some questions. Let's see.
You know, my eyes are so poor, I can't read the questions.
Well, we have a question. From Michael. Hi, Robert. I saw a report that stating that Pope Francis was turning over to Cardinal Aveline. He's from France, from Marseille. The secular news seemed to favor him as well. Is Cardinal Paroline's sudden fainting out a way to prop up Cardinal Aveline?
Well, you know, you're trying to parse all these little stories. I do think that Pope Francis did like Cardinal Aveline of Marseille. That's clear. And I do feel that he's a possible candidate. He brings a lot of things together. John Allen wrote a very nice profile of him on Crux just a few days ago. And Aveline has a beautiful smile, a big round face. Some people say he would be a good John the 24th, following on John the 23rd. He was born actually in Algeria, and he speaks Arabic as well as French. So people are thinking of him as a Mediterranean unifier, someone who could deal with these great questions of immigration and Islamicization of Europe. And Aveline in Marseille has a city which is, I think, nearly 25% Muslim now. Yeah. So, yes, Aveline is a candidate. He was a kind of protege of Pope Francis. And yet, I'm not sure that he will gather the 89 votes. I think some people may think he's a little too close to Francis. Although, interestingly, Aveline has permitted in his diocese the celebration of the Latin Mass.
That's right. And the second part of what Michael was saying, here comes another question that's kind of leading into it. Again, it's about Cardinal Parolin and about having high blood pressure. We want to stress to everybody that we've been told by very good sources inside, people that we know, that there's not a health problem with Cardinal Parolin of recent days that has been reported that he had a fainting spell or high blood pressure. And that is not true.
Well, it was an official denial from the Vatican press office. Therefore, all of us are wondering, was it a lie? Was it disinformation? The Vatican more or less said it was. And we did meet with Cardinal Parolin just a few days before the conclave began. And I wrote about that last night. And at the end of our conversation, we said, this was before Pope Francis died.
It was about 10 days. And we said,
in the middle of April. And we said, Pope Francis is very ill. It's possible that he may pass away. You may be then called upon in the conclave. And he said, oh, I hope not. He said, my hope is to retire in northern Italy, where I was born, where I was raised, and help in the parish where I went as a boy to be a kind of pastor in a little village in northern Italy.
It seemed to us that he was ready for a quiet life. And that was actually in response to when we were discussing the different fractions in the church. And he was stressing to us that there needs to be dialogue. Dialogue is so important. And as he was explaining to us how he thought it should go in the church to bring unity, I said to him, I think that this is what the new Pope needs to be. And that's when Bob said, how about you? And that's when he gave us that answer.
Yeah, perhaps we were a bit impertinent.
Yes.
I don't want you to think that, Yeah, let's go to any other questions.
Well, we have I'm not sure what you call this, like a super chat?
I can't read it.
Oh, how is the Camerlengo allowed to vote if he's supposed to be running the day-to-day operation of the Vatican? In my small mind, a voting age cardinal should never have been allowed to take that role.
It's hard for me to answer that question. I know that he's running it, but it's kind of an administration sort of desk job, takes decisions, seals doors, makes sure records are kept, makes sure things run on time. I don't think it makes him partial to one candidate or the other. I think he can vote impartially and choose the best man.
Okay. And we have people watching from Belgium. Oh, here's a good question, Bob, from Suzanne Love. Are the cardinals required to vote twice a day, day after day one, or can they put off a vote if they are having a substantial discussion?
Well, there's rules written by Pope John Paul II which detail the schedule of the conclave. I suppose if the people running the conclave find that it is extremely contrary to the good ordering of the conclave, there might be some leeway, but the actual rules call for 2 votes in the morning and 2 votes in the afternoon, and it's very unlikely that they will not follow those rules. We expect 1 vote late on Wednesday because there just isn't time that afternoon, and then 2 votes Thursday morning, 2 votes Thursday afternoon, 2 votes Friday morning, 2 votes Friday afternoon, and then perhaps the election on Saturday.
Yes. So,
another question?
It's basically about the voting.
What is it?
It's the same thing about voting once a day or twice a day. I think we have some new comments here. Oh, a beautiful background. It is a beautiful background.
Yeah, we should get out of the way.
And we should let you see the beautiful square at night. Isn't it beautiful?
They're lighting up the dome now.
And you can see that they have draped the balcony. Today they draped the center balcony, preparing for our new Pope to come out. And then we have another comment. I have read some news. Let me put this up. I have read some news that some more progressive cardinals are denouncing the spirit of treason towards the legacy of Francis coming from the younger candidates. Yeah. Have you heard this?
I did hear this, and everyone is getting these pieces of news almost as early as we do, so we are not really that far ahead of you. Everywhere in the world, people are connected by the internet. And it was said that Cardinal Maradiaga from Honduras, who had participated in the discussions and had heard what people were saying, who had been a kind of a supporter of Pope Francis, Honduras in Central America, so his native language is Spanish. He was close to Pope Francis. He was also for a while the head of Caritas International. And he also spoke English and traveled often to America. But after these sessions, he decided to leave. He's 82 years old, so he doesn't have a vote. And apparently just today he got on a plane and left and said he was disappointed in the younger cardinals not being willing to support the line of Pope Francis, and that's been reported around the world. Actually, I didn't hear him say that. I've just seen the same reports you've said. But it's a real straw in the wind to suggest that at least we're going back towards a more center position in this group of cardinals, 133 cardinals. All right.
So Michael has another comment or question. Robert, Cardinal Pizzaballa has been seen as isolated, not attending dinners with other cardinals, etc. My first question is how do you know that, Michael?
Oh.
What is your take on Cardinal Pizzaballa before the conclave?
Well, I would say no cardinal wants to seem to be ambitious. This is a human, an ambition that to get up and follow St. Peter and to be the man who, in a sense, is going to get on the cross with Peter. He will be led where he does not wish to go. They'll tell him he has to make these trips, he has to meet these presidents, he has to give these homilies and speeches. His life will no longer be his own. And if there is an ambition that would drive someone to have a position of authority and of power, I would think the person would try to fight against that. I think that's the key to what is happening with Pizzaballa. It may be that he's sensing that the original alliance that might have led to the election of Cardinal Parolin may be disintegrating a little bit, and yet they may still want an Italian. Pizzaballa is from northern Italy, and he may feel a kind of holy dread that the choice may fall upon him, and so I think he's gone into a type of quiet silence and prayer, and doesn't want to give any impression that this is something that he's seeking himself, but only for the good of the church. That's my interpretation.
And another question is from Jeff Lewis, kind of speaking about the tears when they become Pope. The Room of Tears. Is the Room of Tears in the Sistine Chapel? And where is the accommodations for the cardinals in relation to St. Peter's? Well, the Room of Tears, when you're facing the altar in the Sistine Chapel, the Room of Tears is just off to your left. You'll see a doorway, and in that room, it's not just the Room of Tears. It is actually the sacristy for the Pope. So all of his vestments are kept there. We happened to be in the Sistine Chapel after it was after Easter, the week after Easter, and we saw the Pope's vestments all being brought back into the Room of Tears, the Pope's sacristy, from all the Easter celebrations the previous week.
Right.
And they were carrying them on a silver tray and bringing them back in.
So the great Last Judgment, where Christ raises his arm and Mary is by his side, if you're looking at that, as Deb just said, and you look to the left-hand corner, there's a door that enters into the sacristy, and that's the Room of Tears.
It's a small room. It's not very large at all.
And then what was the other part?
The Dome of Santa Marta. We can tell you a little bit about that because we've stayed there many, many times, and sometimes our pilgrims stay there.
When she says many times, I would say 30 or so times.
Yeah.
Prior to the pontificate of Pope Francis, and then during his pontificate, and we would be in the dining hall, and he would be going up to the buffet and getting some salad, and we would nod our head to the Holy Father.
So what's happening right now, they're finishing dinner, and they're finishing dinner. Dinner is at 7:30 if they're following the same schedule in the dining room, and all the cardinals will eat together in there.
All right. We have a Vatican official who wants us
off the roof.
Yeah, off the roof, because in a sense we are the last people here. And as the cardinals have gathered, night has fallen, and he's asked us to end our transmission.
So please join us. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. We're going to be going live throughout the day tomorrow, and we will be having some special guests. We will be live on this Urbi et Orbi YouTube channel.
Okay.
And then we also will be going live on Instagram, Inside the Vatican Pilgrimages. And we need to go now, it looks like.
Okay.
So blessed evening to all of you.
Good night.
And good night. And we will see you tomorrow.
Good night from Rome.